Welcome to Dr. Lotte's Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. Prepare to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. Are you ready to rewrite your energetic blueprint and break free from inherited patterns? Hi, I'm Dr. Lotte Valentine, physician, psychic medium, and ancestral healer. And I'm excited to introduce my new self-paced online course, Healing the Mother Wound, Rewriting Your Emotional and Energetic Blueprint. In this transformative journey, we'll explore how ancestral imprints shape your emotions, relationships, and a sense of self, so you can release old wounds and reclaim your power. Your healing begins now. Step into a new paradigm of freedom and wholeness today. Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul. Today's guest is Julie Reisler, who is the founder of Empowered Living Incorporated. She is a master intuitive coach and spiritual teacher. Julie hosts the USU podcast, a top-ranked global podcast, and is the author of Get a PhD in You. She's also the founder of the Intuitive Life Designer Coach Certification and Intuition School. Julie has been featured in Forbes, Mind Body Green, the Chopra Center, Bustle, and Thrive Global, and is a multi-time TEDx speaker. Julie has been a professor at Georgetown University for a decade in their health and wellness coaching program, and has trained with the Heart Math Institute, and holds a master's degree in integrative health and wellness coaching. Julie has mentored and worked with thousands of light leaders, conscious coaches, change makers, and soulful entrepreneurs. To learn more about Julie, please visit juliereisler.com. So welcome, Julie. It's such an honor to have you as a guest today.
I feel the same. I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
So I know that you made a big 90-degree turn during your life, and I'm going to say it was kind of inspired by a spiritually transformative experience. So do you want to share how you ended up on this path of becoming, a master intuitive coach and spiritual teacher? What happened?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say it's more like it felt like what would be between a 180 and a 360 is what it felt like. And I know you get it. So I think to go back just a little bit, I, like many, many women and individuals, really struggled with the world of like perfectionism and people pleasing. And I coped with those feelings. I grew up outside of Boston in a very highly academic, competitive area. I'm sure you've heard of some of the schools nearby, like Harvard and MIT and that kind of thing. And it was just like legit my best friend, her boyfriend, the boy I was dating, like all of them went to Harvard. It was that kind of environment, very, really competitive. And it just had that feeling flavor of everything. And, I am a sensitive one. And, probably for me was less about like truly got to get into the best school. It was more like I really wanted to do what I loved. I loved learning. I loved school. But I struggled with that kind of environment. It had a lot of breeding ground for comparison and feeling not good enough. And my way of coping, my addiction of choice was actually food, sugar, overeating, binging. I really struggled. This is not a fun one to have because, like they say in many of these recovery groups, you got to feed the tiger 3 times a day. You can't really fast every day. You got to eat. And I really struggled with the perfectionism, people pleasing, body image, not feeling good enough, comparing myself. I I danced much of my time until the end of high school. I did play sports, but was always the one that was like, I don't want to hurt anybody. Why am I doing this? My dad didn't have any. My dad was one of five. He had four sisters and then two daughters, and just desperately wanted, I think, wanted kids that would play sports. I think he did want sons, but he really got us, I'm grateful he got us into soccer and sports. And I played it, but it wasn't like the competitive, that wasn't really my thing. And again, super competitive where I grew up and just always kind of felt like just not quite good enough. I had that story, which is so sad because it's not true. It's not true. And, I had a lot of joy when I was on stage dancing, acting, perform. I just loved it. I felt like I was alive and I didn't think about those things. But that's not all of the time. And so struggled a lot with binging. And I went to college. I met my the person I ended up marrying in college, really good person, was one of my best friends, was the first guy that, I think really liked me for me and has great qualities. And, I knew myself and didn't know myself at 18, 19, 20, 21. We ended up dating and got married very early. And I started to see this eating disorder, this binging and sometimes under eating. It like blew up. I think he has a wonderful big family that's very close. I was not used to that, and just really wanted to maintain that, being liked. And they did like me, and they're wonderful people, right? So like I just felt like I'd always keep up with that. And it just that people pleasing perfectionism. It doesn't matter. You can change geographical location, doesn't mean it's going away. It doesn't matter, secure job, money, none of that means it's like on hiatus. It was still there, like lurking in the background. And I was at a job that I liked. I was at a nonprofit. I liked it a lot, but I felt something was off. And I remember I had a day I just could not stop eating M&Ms. We had a lot of food, did a lot with students on campuses, and I found myself, I could not stop eating this like big 6-pound bag from Costco. They used to have them. I mean, it was just like cup after cup after cup. And I realized, I was sick for almost 3 days from this. And it hit me when I was really, Dr. Lottie, I was like, do I end my life or do I get help? I mean, I really felt like it was disastrous. But the funny thing is, not the funny thing, on the outside, it looked like nothing's wrong. It looked great. We looked great together. He's a good person. He was kind to me. Like nothing was wrong, but I felt so not aligned in myself at all. And I was very grateful. I had remembered my mom was in a 12-step program growing up, and a therapist friend had told me, maybe you should look into 12-step program. And thank goodness I'd printed out the list, and I ended up, I ended up finding myself in a meeting, and it was really like, do I drive into a tree? Do I go to the meeting? And this is the beginning of hearing my intuition. A small voice said, go to the meeting and your whole life will change. And I thought, it felt very calm, very peaceful. I thought, I don't know how that's going to happen, but what do I have to lose? It's one Tuesday night in May. Like, who cares? It's one night, I'll go. And, I was crying after. I felt really alone and really embarrassed. And this is like the last thing I want to talk about, is stealing cookies from my mother-in-law's freezer or stealing from CVS or like all these things I would do to, get my sugar fix. And what I would say is that was the beginning of the excavation process. That program, it's a spiritual program. It's about connecting with the divine. The answer is spiritual. It's not about more willpower doing it yourself. And I started getting into the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And then I learned a little bit about the Course in Miracles, a little bit, and Rumi, but, just even doing the 12 steps themselves, it felt like excavating who I am. And I think what happened is I was priming the land for a major shift. And so I, had two children back to back. I had my daughter in 2006, and then in 2008. They're about 16 months apart. I just had this knowing that if I didn't have my second, I wouldn't have another one. And I really feel like I called him in. Let's see, he was in March of 2008. And I would say about 9 months later, I woke up in the middle of the night. It was 3:33 when I looked at the clock. And I legit thought I was dying of a heart attack. I'm talking I had never, I now know it was I mean, I later found out it was a panic attack. I had never had this. My heart was racing. I was sweating. It was very, very scary. And I sat up and I was freaking out. And I did not wake up my husband at the time. And I heard the voice say, it was very calm, very quiet. And it said, "You are not okay here." And I was like, oh, F. Like, what do you mean? Like, I remember sitting with that. This is one of the first times I had had quite a bit of intuitive voices and nudges, but I had kind of just, okay, I knew when I had a miscarriage. I knew immediately my body, I woke up, this was a couple years before it said it just said it was gone. I mean, it had many, many audio, clairaudient experiences, visual, but I assumed like, all right, I just kind of didn't think about it. This though caught my attention. And I sat there like, what do you mean I'm not okay here? And I heard, "You're in the closet with something." I heard that. I'm like, I'm in the closet with something. And, I immediately was like, oh, I wonder. Like, I started to ask questions, which I hadn't even gone into coaching work, any of that, because it's a lot about questions. But I thought, okay, let me ask myself some questions. So I was looking, okay, maybe, and I looked at sexuality. Am I, I'm with a man. Should I be with a woman? I don't know. I've never thought of that. The immediate answer for that, even though it, can find a soul in anybody, was no, that's not it. And I was kind of, very weird way hoping that would be it, because I had this deep feeling like, oh shit, that's not it. Like maybe, and then it really came up to the surface, like, you cannot be in this marriage. This is not okay for you. And it was never, he is a good person, was kind, good father. There were some things that were very different in our, religion, ideology, the way we did life. But energetically, I didn't know that. I didn't have the words 15 years ago for energy. It was not the right fit energetically. And I felt like I was suffocating, and I didn't know this consciously. So once I heard this, like, it's your marriage and you're not okay, that there was silence. And what I can tell you is the moon was full. We had a window over our bed. So it literally, I looked up, and I only way I can explain this is I feel like the moon literally spoke to me. That's what I heard. And I felt this palpable, like, what is going on? I mean, I felt like I went into a different realm. Now, this is like, I have two kids under the age of two. This is not good timing at all. This spiritually transcending experience this ST is not a good time. But I did wake up the next morning and I told my husband, I said, something's not right. I just don't feel something's not right. I tried to explain it. He was very upset, obviously. He's somebody who, you know, you don't change, rock the boat, just you get married, it's for life. And that's okay. That's okay. He's not wrong. I'm not right. It's okay. Just very, and I get it. It was very upsetting, of course, to hear that. And I had no way to explain it other than, okay, some of the things we do, I couldn't explain. I don't feel like I'm in just a religion. I'm spiritual. I don't necessarily want to do the amount of things you're doing here, in that whole world, and then some other area. But the energy piece, and I struggled with this. This turned my life upside down. What really, really made a huge difference was I started to hear guidance, and I heard, if you don't leave, you are going to die. And it told me how. I don't really want to get into that, but it was an illness that I prefer not even. I saw it. I was like, oh my, I was shown and told, And it just something hit me. I'm getting flushed as I say this. It's I want to be here. I want to be here for my children. And as scary as it was, um, it was probably was the most transformative. It's still to this date the most transformative moment. And it ended up, because of that, I did some work with the Landmark Institute. People might have known with that work. And then that got me into coaching. And then I got my master's degree. And then I left my corporate job. And then I got divorced and I started my own business. Like, I was not in this path at all. I mean, I was in a corporate day job. I liked it. It was fine. Something happened. It felt like I got plugged into the wall and there was no more, it's fine. I felt, and since this, the divorce was in 2011, I started my business 2014. I feel like everything that I've been doing has been through guidance, through intuition. Um, since then, so much has opened up and shifted that when I look at pictures of myself in my 20s or when we got married, I actually don't recognize myself. One of the things I used to straighten my hair, like I wear my hair curly today. That's a tiny thing. But again, and I had to realize, even though he's a good person, he's a great dad, it's not the right fit energetically. And it's became more and more obvious. I would say he finally started to see it. And there are times we're not super close, but we get along well and we've raised our kids really well. We've both remarried. I'm really grateful. He has 2 children. I have an amazing partner, husband, and a stepdaughter with special needs, which has been so interesting. I will say I had a couple other experiences of the moon speaking to me. That 333 wake up call, though, I was 35. And similar to what we were saying earlier, in my chart, you can see this is like the pivot point. But for someone who is the people pleaser, like I was the teacher's pet, like I don't do shit that's not on the path. Like this is not how I was doing life. And it's the most important experience because this is where my whole idea of being your USU, I just realized, what am I doing if I'm not listening to my soul? Like, who am I then? And I'd gotten back into acting, into singing and dancing and all of those things. And I realized I only want to be acting like on the stage. I don't want to act in my life. That doesn't work. And it's the people pleasing started to feel inauthentic. And I didn't realize that. I didn't see it that way. I saw it as, oh, it's safe. It's how I'm liked. It's how I'm accepted. And for anyone listening, it's okay. And it's just, I will say there's way too many experiences to share here, although I can share a few that are just unbelievable synchronicities and signs. But I will tell you, I have felt so guided by source, by my higher self, by the divine, whatever you call it. There are so many moments, signs, and I just know. And so I don't really plan out what I'm doing. I listen, I tune in, and it is like I feel like I literally am on a whole different timeline. Lottie, like I'm not this life, even where I live, that what I'm doing. I mean, and it feels so genuine and so real and so who I'm meant to be. And it was not at all what it looked like. So I don't have most of the same friends. I mean, some I do from my recovery work and things, but where I used to live, they're really great people. I lost touch because I moved farther up, and it's just fascinating. Integrating back in those communities when my kids go to school down there. It's been probably one of the most important things I've ever experienced that I think has helped me to have empathy and compassion and trust of intuition at a level you can't buy it. You can't buy this.
No, I love your story, and it's so funny because there's so many similarities
Yeah.
in our lives. I also went to school in Boston, also raised being the people pleaser person, right? And part of that is the generations that we come from, and our mothers. That's how they were raised, and they did not. When you think about it, this is the first generation we have access to so much information with social media and the internet, right? And that we haven't had that long. That's really only about what, like 15, 20 years now. I mean, the internet really didn't come around until around the early 2000s, right? And we didn't have, in the 90s, we couldn't Google things. So that's pretty new still. And we have that ability to get all that information now. But you also mentioned something about, the coincidences and things like that. Is there a story that you can share with the listeners?
Oh gosh, there are so many stories. Well, there's one I still, it's interesting. I just had a realization this weekend. This is like 15 years later. So first of all, I tend to get a lot of signs on the road. I think because I'm in a state of, I'm focused, but I'm not overly in my head. I mean, I've gotten hundreds, maybe thousands of signs. So one of them, I was named after my grandfather. I didn't get to meet him. He was just a very, very charismatic, special human being. I've always felt like I was due on his birthday. I always have felt very close to him, really special human being. And he comes through a lot of readings. I feel him all the time. And I remember, as I was making this decision and getting separated, I had young kids, they were 3 and 5. Like, I just kept hearing, this is the window. You need to like follow this. I just had a lot of peace, even though it felt so scary. And I just remember asking, please, can you give me a sign? Just something, that I'm on the right track. And first of all, I got many signs, but I remember hearing that a good thing to do is create signs with those that have passed on. And so I was like, all right, Grandpa Jerry, I'm going to just create some random signs. Let's just see what you can do here. So, I talked about this once before on a different show, but it was like green apples, zebras, and blue anchors. He had a ship, he had a boat. So I knew he loved the sea. So I remember I pulled out, I was at the gym, where I used to live. I pulled out to go home. I kid you not, I was thinking about him and I'm like, give me a sign. There is a white truck. The only thing on the truck is a bowl of like 30 green apples. That's it. Nothing, no writing, nothing. So I see that. I'm like, whoa. And then the car that pulls in front of me, maybe 3 minutes later, had his initials and the day that he transitioned, which I fast forward 3 years later, I led a retreat in Utah, in Salt Lake. And it was on the day he transitioned, July 10th at 7:10 a.m. I was outside journaling, asking him for a sign. The whole power went out for the minute of 7:10. People were like, what just happened? Literally, and then came back on at 7:11 a.m. And I was like, okay. Like he literally, I heard, I am the power of everything. I'm with you. I'm in electricity. And then it went out. And that was another sign. But back to the road. So I saw the license plate and I had chills. I think the next day I was doing something over in the bridge. I live in Maryland. I was going over to Virginia, passing through DC, the National Zoo. They have like the signs with all the animals on it. This sign had like 20 squares of only zebras. It made no sense. Like usually I pass it all the time. They have every kind of animal on there. So I saw it on the way there and way back. And I was like, no way. Like, how is it that all of those, why is it a zebra? That makes, my brain was like, what the F is going on? That was like, there are so many, and I've tried to write them or to take pictures and to I had a very weird thing happen. I was asking for guidance about, just when I was moving into this apartment, I just moved in. It was really a big deal. My kids were really young. I was scared. But I also had peace. I was nervous but peaceful. And my mom was moving from Boston to be near me to help, and she moved in the same building. We were in this great building, and we went to lunch with a family, second cousin, and I had asked for a sign, and I came back, and in my apartment, one of the lights were on that was not on. It's one you have to step on, and then the whole back glass sliding door was completely shattered, but it did not make a mess. It was you. I mean, the people that owned the building were like, in 80 years, no one has seen this. I felt like I just felt like spirit was saying, You know that it's shattered, but it's beautiful, and it can be a new window. Like these pieces, like they're going to different places. I don't know. It felt really positive to me. It felt like something about it just it felt right. It's hard to explain. And I remember feeling, I mean, that light kept going on for a while. It kind of freaked me out. I slept in my mom's apartment a little bit because I was scared. And then I just realized it's energy, it's love, it's guidance telling me like the light's back on in you. Like you, this is, I was asking for those signs. There's so many more, but those are a few. I think more will come to me. I get these though, I mean, on the road, in my experiences, people that I meet, I mean, then just with my career, there's so much that has happened that is just completely divine ordination, orchestration. There's no way to explain. I got to study with Teal Swan. I didn't know I was telepathic with her. I mean, some weird, cool stuff where people that I've met that just showed up. It just so many little winks to say you're right where you're meant to be. My husband, like getting to be with him, that's a whole other story. But yeah, it comes in every form. And this is why for a while I'm like, I don't really know, it comes audio, I can hear it. Sometimes I'll definitely get a vision. I could never picture my husband when I had a vision when we were in college, actually. I had a vision of us before we really started dating. And I had this image. I remember telling him, I'm like, that's weird. I just saw you and me and two children. It was a girl and a boy, and they were 3 and 5. And I said, maybe you're going to be the uncle to my kids. Like, that's bizarre. So this was before we were even officially dating or anything. But the interesting thing was, I could never see us together with our kids past 3 and 5. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. And so this happens. Sometimes I'll get an image, a vision, and if I can't see past something, it's often something to pay attention to.
Yeah, and I mean that's divine guidance, right? And we're all divinely guided, but I would say
Yeah.
a lot of people miss it, or they think it's. I mean, I ignored it myself for a long time and said, "Oh, it's just a coincidence," right? So, how did you step into that? Did you just embrace it from the beginning, or did you have your doubts for a period of time?
I think my higher self, the divine, that's all that are working with me really have taken the kind, gentle, graceful ease, path of ease. I would say that it like opened up like a flower type of, it just kept opening and opening, and I would meet somebody or something would happen, get chills, get visions. I'm like, something's happening. What is happening? Even frankly, my business, like I had two coaching clients and I used to do personal training on this. I mean, it was like not the business I have today. And the next thing I know, I posted something. This is like when social media was just starting. And I got asked to help lead leadership trainings. I did some of that before. And now I'm a key like coach and leadership trainer. And I mean, my business blossomed through that avenue. And then the physician who took my barefoot fitness class wants me to lead like health and well-being classes for her weight management patients. She's become a dear friend. Like every person I met became this like beautiful flowering opportunity to be of service. It was so incredible, and I couldn't miss it. I'm like, what's happening? I don't even have a website that makes sense. Like it's got 8 different colors and 4 fonts. I mean, I made it myself during lunch. Like this is when you had to know coding 11, 12 years ago. It was terrible. It was not one you would, I mean, it didn't matter. And I had this strong desire to create a film around my eating disorder. It's called Hungry for More. I mean, I did this on a shoestring budget. Like a friend, her boyfriend was a filmmaker. We made it. I happened to reconnect with someone I knew when I had a fellowship at University of Virginia. I met this student. I loved her. 20 years later, we connected, and come to find out she started the Conscious Cinema Film Festival that is now the leading film festival for conscious cinema, the Illuminate Film Festival. And I connected with her and I was like, I have this film. Well, the film was not up to the standards, which was fine, although it is free on YouTube. But it led me, I was so moved to help with what she was doing. I spent my own money to go to Sedona and to volunteer. And I didn't know why, but I couldn't not. And that is where, I met some of the people that I've gotten to really connect with, like Greg Braden, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Michael Beckwith, Michael Franti. Oh my gosh. She passed, but she was an amazing Barbara Hubbard. Some of the amazing spiritual teachers. I mean, met them and connected and helped and part of this growing field of like heart and consciousness. And I got to be part of the films, Heal, and all these films that the Dalai Lama's. I was like, what is happening? And that's one thing led to another. And then I had I heard you need to start a podcast. Like these conversations you're having in the side of the Sedona Performing Arts Center with Joe Dispenza, like you need to have something where you can talk to him and people can hear that. I just said, okay, I'm hands up, surrender. Something's going on. I don't know what's going on, but this looks so different than the track I was on. It's so different, unbelievably different. So I followed the breadcrumbs. I got the inspiration to write a book, to do a TED talk. And the next thing I know, TED Talks, I applied and two of them just said yes. I'm like, what is going on? But, for me, it's like, I just so want to share and be of service because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to think you're going to die, to feel like you feel like you're dying inside with whether it's addiction, whether it's self-loathing. I forgot to mention this. I had a major health crisis. Right after I got separated, I passed out. I was in Florida and I remember they couldn't figure it out. Come to find out, my thyroid completely stopped working. Diagnosed with Hashimoto's. It's been a journey. It's healing. It's healing. The autoimmune part is healing. I really believe, though, that autoimmune. What is autoimmune? It's attacking yourself. What was I doing? Attacking myself. So I can tell you that I think much of what I do is healing that through the opposite, which is self-love and trusting and surrender and healing at the mind level, obviously, but the body level. And it's a really interesting gift. It's an interesting gift because it's definitely been something, I've changed my whole lifestyle, the way I eat, do life, sleep, move because of this. And it happened right after I ended that marriage. And I really, what I heard immediately, for a year, I'd been wearing blue. I didn't know why. I could not stop wearing blue. And I didn't even know about the chakras or any of that. And the minute I learned about it because I went to Maryland University of Integrative Health. I went to an amazing school, got my master's degree in health and wellness coaching. We learned all about mind body science, about neuroplasticity. I learned about integrative nutrition. I mean, it's a fantastic school. And we talked about energy and the chakras. And I learned, and I was like, I know this language. And I immediately heard your throat chakra, you were not speaking your truth. And over years of that happening, that is not to be mad at yourself, but that's what happened. It affected your thyroid's right where your throat is. So this is like no one in the world I was in had any clue what I was talking about. I mean, there's still some people, my kids included, less so today. They're like, my mom's a little different. She's a little different, especially here on the East Coast, although it's changing. It's changing. So many more people are now open and into energy medicine and healing and intuition and psychic medium abilities and knowing we're all connected. But, 15, 14 years ago, 11, 10 years ago, like this was not commonplace here. So it's been an incredible journey, not always easy at all. Yet it feels right. And there is something about that. I actually believe, and I am not into the whole like anti-aging campaign, but I will say what's happened is I feel like my vitality, my light is like increased 100-fold.
Yeah. And so you were in the corporate world. What were you doing in the corporate world before this all happened?
Yeah, so I was with Panera Bread with their largest franchise in Maryland, one of their largest, I should say. I did all their recruiting of the managers, everyone that worked for it was a franchise. They started at 10 locations. When I left, they were at 64. I interviewed and hired everyone. I also did guest issues. So if anyone slipped and fell, the insurance, the whole calling them, dealing with them, any guest that wasn't happy. I actually kind of had two jobs in one. Uh, and then I also did leadership training, and I did a little bit of on camera TV stuff for them, a little bit, but more because they needed somebody, and I'd done that. So, and I started to get back into my acting, modeling, and that kind of work while I was working there. But I was there 11 years, and it was. I always felt like I love Panera. It's great, like free coffee. I realize I should not be eating their cookies and bagels, but like free, all their pastries, everything. And the people were great. Like there was a lot I loved about it, and especially when it was a newer company. But it started to feel like it's fine, but this does not feel. Especially once I worked with this, through Landmark with a coach, and I had a coach that literally changed my life. Lotte, he asked me a question that just I was like, what do I do about this marriage? I really don't want to ruin my family or myself. And he said, well, if you knew your life would turn out fantastic either way, what would you do? And it was the first time I'd had someone bring both of those polarities and neutralize them. When I tell you it was a chiropractic realignment, that question, my whole body in one split second knew I would not stay married, knowing that. And when I realized that, something changed. And I said, oh my God, I can't stay married. And he said, great, go do that with kindness, with love, with grace, and then come back in 6 months and I want you to coach this program with me. So to the day, I had moved out, found furniture, and then I ended up coaching 4 times this program before I went back to school. So it changed my life. And that's when I started to see the gap of like, oh, I like what I'm doing, but I'm good at it. Like as Gay Hendricks says in The Big Leap, like you can have something you're good at, even excellent at it. It doesn't mean it's your genius. It doesn't mean it's your soul's purpose. I was good at it. I could do a really good job. I could find things I'm grateful for, really nice people. There's nothing wrong. And it hit me. It being fine, that's not, I didn't really come here to just do fine. Like that's not who I am. And I made that decision. And then I finished my master's degree program, and I gave myself a few months, and I remember this. It was really, I don't know where the courage, it just was such a knowing. People thought I was absolutely crazy, but like, we're like, good job, Julie. We're like, what are you doing? You have 2 kids, you're divorced, you're single mom, like you're starting your own business. You don't even know entrepreneurial experience. And I knew in my gut, it was what I was being guided to do. And I can see now looking back 10 plus years, and there's just so much more that's opening. I have to be doing this work. I can't even have to be. I have to be. And the more I allow and step in and trust my intuition and learn about how to connect in, I mean, it's just blossomed and opened. And I really do believe it's our hidden superpower. It's like the treasure in the treasure box that many go through their life with it locked. And I don't I don't do anything without it. I ask my intuition on everything, everything.
Yeah. And so, what led you to start the intuition school? Can you tell the listeners about that, and if people are
Yeah.
interested in even taking, studying there?
Yeah. So, this has happened very naturally, gradually. Wrote a book, started speaking, leading retreats, felt very natural. Started the podcast 7 years ago. Just started having more and more people. I've always been enamored with Abraham Hicks and the channeling teachings. I was big into Louise Hay when I was like 10. My mom loved her, so I would listen to her tapes. Wayne Dyer, a lot of these different teachers, the Seth work. Like I had slowly come into it, and I just started to like it. It started to feel like the way that many of us are taught, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you're a type A, you're overachiever. It's like you got to create a goal and a plan and work and hustle, and it's like that was depleting me, my adrenals, my body. It's like I couldn't do it anymore. And I started to look like you take the tapestry, the knots and the weird stuff on the back, you flip it and you're like, that is gorgeous. But on the back, it isn't. And I started to get this image of it like flipping. And I realized the way that I actually the best way for me to make decisions in life is to connect with my intuition. Well, how do you do that? Well, first you got to be present. I've got to be present so I can even hear it or see it or feel it. If I am so wrapped up in my phone or the news or what's going on around me or not, not connected in my inner world, I'm going to miss it. And I believe, well, how do I say it? I think it's a good idea to take a real close look at this because there's a lot been designed around fear and about keeping us out of our own divine mind. I am a big fan of A Course in Miracles today, and it's a lot to do with, the ego mind and the God mind, love mind. I just started to see it's everything. And then I got this nudge. It was my best friend of age 5 is like, I said to her, I think I really might have these like psychic abilities, but I don't know. I didn't get a degree in it. Like I didn't go to school. So I don't know. She's like, Julie, hello, we know you've been psychic since you were little. Don't you remember this and this? And I'm like, no, I don't remember any of that. I blocked it out because I think I thought it was very weird. And also like not logical and you can't really count on it. And my Boston, left brain, like, go to an Ivy, it was like intuition. Like I'm sorry, that's not peer reviewed. Well, today it is. Today it's different, but in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, anyhow. So I just started listening and I heard it's time to do training. I studied, a lot of different books. Suzanne Giesman, who I adore, I did her trainings with her. I did with other people. I have a mentor who's local who doesn't even have a website and has been doing this for 85 years and literally has spoken to angels since she was like 3. I have other people that I've worked with, but I just started to allow myself to be honest, it was like I gave myself an invisible permission slip. And I said, you know what? I'm already out of the spiritual closet more than I think. Like this this is clearly what's here. And I want to allow it because if it's going to help people and be for my highest good too, then I don't want resistance around it. So it's really interesting. I said yes to this. And I would say I said yes, like really embrace this probably a year and a half ago. And I got the guidance to shut down. I have a coaching certification. I teach at Georgetown, but I also have my own. And it said, shut it down. It's a beautiful program. I was guided to open it. It took a lot of energy and time. It's, a main revenue generator and I'm in love with it. And it said, shut it down. And I was crying. I'm like, what the heck? I could see in my taxes that year. I'm like, oh, that made a big difference. Shutting that down. I shut it down for 9 months. And in that time, what came through to me was I heard very clearly, you must be teaching about accessing intuition. You must, and you must integrate this. I did a little bit in my coaching, but that's got to be a main component, because that's the key. It's a key. And it's actually part of how I know I've been such a powerful coach because I trust my intuition and I've seen the results. And I was flying out. It was such a cool experience. I got to, Greg Braden, I adore him. I was interviewing him in person and I was flying back from Santa Fe and I just heard you've got to start intuition school. And I heard the framework for intuition, the whole thing. And this is often what happens. It just kind of wrote itself like it had already been there. And I was like, oh, I could teach that. This is what I do. These are the steps. Like anybody can do this. Anybody. We all have access to the treasure that tells us, for our highest good, what to do. It ends doubt. It increases confidence, all of that. So I said, okay, I'm going to launch this and maybe I'm going to reopen this coaching program and add it. And so I taught it for the first time live early in the fall. It was a huge success. People were really having miracles through it and connecting because we met live and they had recordings, but we met live. And then now I've added it back into my coaching program and I redesigned. This is not a small thing. I redesigned the entire thing. So I didn't know that was happening, but it felt like a non-negotiable. Um, there's a little part of my left brain that's still like, you did not get a master's degree in intuition, Julie. But I don't need a master's degree. First of all, I've studied quite a bit with many different teachers and I've practiced. You don't need to have a freaking degree in this. And that's been a big healing for someone who growing up in the West with a very big focus. I had thought about medical school also. I just, which maybe someday, I don't know, but for now, what I keep hearing is keep listening and showing up and doing it. You have enough. And this, a lot of us, I think like, I need more training. I need more. And in some cases, yeah, we need more training and support. But there's also a time when it's like, you know what? Now it's time to lean in and to really tune in to what I do have. And so it's been miraculous. I had no idea that I would be starting an intuition school, especially 10 years ago. If you told me that, I would have been like, what are you talking about? I work with the government and the military and Fortune 500 companies, and I coach entrepreneurs, and I love intuition, but I would never, not what's happening today. And I will say the medical intuitive, that has opened up. It's always been there. I think I got scared by it, if I'm being honest. I had some things shown to me with people that had illnesses or things go on, and I felt like, why do I know that? And what I find today is I've just said to the divine, I surrender. I surrender the small s for self. I surrender myself, like me, my identity. I don't know. Use me, because we have a lot of people that I think are looking for support right now,
Mhm.
and I want to be used. I think we all do.
Yeah, I love that. I love the surrender because I think in the end we're also divinely guided, and it's just like you're saying, just tune into that intuition and listen. And you've done
Yeah.
such a great job, yourself tuning into that, and then moving on to teaching that to other people through your own life experiences. Now, in your book, "Get a PhD in You," you
Yeah.
emphasize, self-discovery. Can you share a personal experience that profoundly influenced your journey towards that self-awareness?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, I think for me, it probably starts way back when I went to a recovery support group meeting and said, I am struggling as, a binge eater with addiction with food. And when I could start to say that, and like the shame and guilt lifted, and it became like, oh, I struggle with sugar and food. Huh. Like it started, this took a lot of time and work, honestly, but there was a time, I'd say a couple years in, I remember thinking, I'm actually grateful now for this addiction. That discovery, that realization, it doesn't define me. The way that I nourish my body changes all the time. What I'm doing now doesn't look like what I did before. But the discovery, the realization, the awareness, I am not my body. I am not the story. I am not the addiction. I am not the beliefs. So then you start to go, this is the question, right? Well, who am I then? And that discovery was, I've done a lot of deep discovery on that. It's like, oh, well, I am a child of God. I'm a child of the divine. I am a holy spark, as you are. We all are. We're actually literally all of the same thing. So, that's led into even more spiritual understanding and discovery, really to see, the divine in everybody. And that's not always easy, especially those we don't get along with. So that discovery for me keeps opening and opening. But I think it goes back to, what are you saying to yourself? What are you believing? What do you think is true? I think of Byron Katie's work, like, is it true? Is it really true? Like, to ask those questions, it, typically, mostly, it's not true, because if you can have another perspective, then that's not the only answer. So that awareness, and I would say, learning to get quiet, meditating, that was never something I was able to do. I had to do that in my master's degree. Actually, we had to write a dissertation on, meditation and mind body science, and we were studying all of these different teachers, and I started with 30 seconds. That's all I could do. Today depends, sometimes 10, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes 5, But for me, that longer period feels good, and that's miraculous. But it took time. It took time, and learn. That's where the gifts are when we're quiet, because then we start to feel and heal and hear.
Yeah, and for all the listeners out there that says, "Oh, I don't know how to tune into my intuitive side." What advice would you give to all of those listeners?
So one of the first, I have a whole framework I teach, and the first of, intuition is we use that. It just came through. The first thing, the most important thing you do is you set your intention. You set the intention. It's like your magic wand. I am intending because I'm human and I have this as my birthright. My intention is to connect with my intuition. Period. I don't know how long it'll take. There's a little bit of surrender. And then I do teach how to get quiet and meditate. That is part of the framework. But that intention, I am just choosing our decision, our ability to choose. We don't even realize how powerful that is. That's the difference because we have free will. So to choose, I am putting intuition as I'm valuing it. I'm putting it as something that's important. It's so funny. I kind of flipped it on its head. I sometimes feel this about the world. It's upside down, right? We value the things that are often completely the opposite of what's valuable and helpful. So, I mean, I go to my left brain. I do. I mean, I know how to do that, but it always first goes with what am I feeling at the heart, my gut, intuitively. I journal. I use a pendulum every day. I use body. I do what's muscle testing. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to tune in. I hear it, I see it, but you've got to first say, I'm choosing to do that. I'm intending. Like, I think that's setting the intention. It's making a decision. It's also, there's willingness, there's determination. There's just a bit of, you free will. So you've got to decide, I'm using my will. I mean, I like to say, let me align my will with divine will. That's still an intention. And that could be your intention. I want to line my choices today with a higher guidance. Great. Start there.
Yeah, I love that. And I know the time is just flying by. So,
I
how can
know.
people learn more about you and learn your courses and your teachings?
So the best place to go is probably first my website. It's juliereisler.com, REI like the store, because I think we say it wrong. You can find me on YouTube. It's just my name, Julie Reisler. I have a lot of resources there. But on my website, you will see in the top, there's Intuition School. There's a lot of free resources, a lot. There's Learn with Julie, and you'll see tons of free resources. And then Intuition School, I think you'll have the link to that, is one of my favorite programs. It is. I have my coaching certification right now. I'm doing that once, maybe twice a year. We're going to be finishing in May. So maybe in the fall. I'm not sure. It might be next year. But Intuition School now, it's self-paced and it has so many resources. It's really, really a beautiful program. People have said that it's been life-changing. And I also have groundings and meditations and energy, medicine practices, as well as the 9 modules. And it's lifetime access. It's from my heart. I don't know what to say other than I feel like the divine tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You're doing this." And there's other things out there, which is great. This is like my signature program that I feel like it was channeled through me. So, if it connects with someone, awesome. And if not, that's great too.
Yeah, I love that. And we'll make sure we put the link in the podcast show notes as well. And how can people find your book?
Yep, get a PhD in you. I'm working on my next book now, but that is not ready. So get a PhD in you is on Amazon and very easy to find. If you just put that title in, you will see it. There's a companion journal that goes with it. And there's also another version that's for like around business and career. But I think the first one, which is like the pinky one, is the one to start with. It reminds me a little bit of The Artist's Way. It's my story, and it's also got like a workbook feel. It is very pretty inside. I wanted people to work through it. So there's a lot of beautiful like little images and places to write. Like I've heard, oh my God, this is gorgeous. I'm like, well, it's hard work, so I wanted to make it pretty.
I love that. Oh, that's great. And we'll make sure we'll put that link too in the podcast notes. And my last question to you is, what do you think is the meaning of life?
Okay. It's a great question. Well, I think the meaning of life, each of us has our own unique individual Earth school curriculum. And I do believe the basis of that curriculum, no matter who you are, is a remembrance, a return to love, to the divine, to remembering who you are, to finding inner peace, like lasting inner peace. I believe that's possible in human form. I believe that what's actually is real is something that you cannot touch, that is infinite. I believe we all are infinite. The body is not who we are, yet the body is a great learning tool for sure. And that we all have, our people that trigger us. They're teachers, not always fun. The people that we adore, other teachers, and everyone in between. Everything is here to teach. It's all for learning and to remember who we are. And to me, no matter who you are, I mean, I truly believe, the divine light, love, creator, every one of us, including the plants and the animals, and those on other dimensions and realms, we all come from this like indescribable light that is all loving, all wise, all knowing, and forever giving. So the body passes on. I don't believe that our soul or spirit does. I believe it's a forever thing. But in this lifetime, for anyone, those tuning in, we're here now in this lifetime, and we might have other lives at the same time, but we're talking about this one because I don't know about those others at this moment. This lifetime, we are here to remember that and to really see how much we can forgive and come back to heart and to love. That's what I believe life is about. And having fun, laughing, joy.
I love that. Don't forget the fun and the joy in that
Yeah, have
mixture.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun. Exactly. Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for taking the time and being a guest at our show today and sharing all your knowledge with the listeners.
Thank you so much. I really hope and pray that this conversation, that it blesses everyone, that even if there's one takeaway that like makes a big difference, that the people that whoever needs to hear it gets something really impactful. And thank you. I so am inspired by what you're doing, and I appreciate you having me.
As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within my community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share this podcast episode. Join my free newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlotte.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.